All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy. The SGG of this terribly named tech podcast. One of the worst names in tech podcasting, but the QA, that's the important part, obviously stands for question and answers. We like to make this an interactive conversation. I have an amazing crew of people in the live chat right now, all saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And I know we're going to have a fun conversation. This is officially the PJ podcast of November. Usually I hold the last podcast of the month is the sort of casual, let's just kind of let our hair down, even though I don't have any hair. And I'm in what I slept in. These are my pajamas, my Los Pollos Hermanos pajamas. But this is to again to catch up on what's going on on the channel right now. I just got back from an incredible trip to India. This was part of the MediaTek. This wasn't the MediaTek Executive Summit like they've had every year. This was something a little bit different from MediaTek because I feel like we'll get into why. I don't need to gild that lily and preface what I'm going to talk about for most of this podcast. But I landed at LAX yesterday noonish, and then I went home and I got to see my loving family. And somewhere around 5 p.m., after traveling from Delhi to Toronto to Los Angeles, I was falling asleep standing up. Like, I don't think I'm going to be able to power through. Because the goal is try to make it to your normal bedtime. Then when you fall asleep, you're kind of getting your body back and acclimated to your actual time zone. And it was like dangerous. Like I was leaning against the doorway of my daughter's bedroom, just kind of talking to her and realizing that like I had started dreaming while standing up. So that was bad. I talked to Marie and just like, hey, I don't think I'm gonna last, and I know this is really bad, but I think I just got to go to bed. So at around like 5:30, 5:45, I went to sleep, and then I woke up at 6 a.m. when my phone alarm went off to get ready for this podcast. And like, oh, I slept 12 hours. uh, I feel pretty good. I don't know that I've gotten that much sleep in a really long time. Let me take a drink of coffee here. This is going to be a very interesting, like, I feel like I'm still zoned out, right? There's still like a jet laggy feeling to what's going on. I'm caffeinating right now. I'm kind of perking up and waking up, but I also know that like I'm scattered. Like this is not me at my most put together and effective, but I think we'll be in for a really fun conversation as we talk about MediaTek, travel, and I have a lot of thoughts on the gear that I brought to India. So again, this will be a fun one too if we just want to chat out like good travel tech and gadgets that seem to make this stuff work well. So let me take a drink and then we can really get into MediaTek Dimensity's new phones that are coming out and how the rumor mill is already talking about the chips that'll be made for next year. Oh, we've got Eric, the tech preacher, saying, "What up, peeps?" I can't click on his comment because comments are coming in so quick. Let's see, we got Jimmy Fire Dragon, we got Pacoston, we've got Michael C. Simon says Hypno. I said Jimmy J-Man 150. We got Jojo the Techie saying hello, everybody. We got John Gao saying happy Monday. We got Ron Guido wishing everyone a good morning. Control Alt Clay said, world says hello. Lamprose Bose, H2O Taku. We've got some fun folks in here now. I love it. Aditi Anil, hashtag some totally did not forget his mouse at home for his trip to India, guy. Let me tell you, I packed heavy for this trip. So it was going to be roughly 7 days on the ground. It was going to be a week on the ground in India. But of course, that also means like See, this is what messes with my brain, is that it's almost 10, no, like it's more like 9 days when you count sort of the travel as you get out to India. That takes a certain amount of time. And then you have to do the time travel of time zones. Um, See, this is what's okay. JoJo's already thrown shade. This is where we're gonna have to jump right in. I did not bring it upstairs. Dang it. So JoJo the Techie's like, oh, your travel setup's not very compact because I'm JoJo the Techie and I work off of an iPad. I'm so clever. So JoJo the Techie, do you have? You're trying to work off of like a Mac Mini and an iPad, right? So I brought my Surface laptop. I was strongly thinking I wouldn't take my laptop, but this was an opportunity. Let me pull this up. You know what I can do? I can at least pull up the screen share from thesomegadgetguy.com, and it's the ZBack. So she's throwing me all this shade right now, because like I post what my workstation was looking like, and I had the Surface laptop. You know what? I think let me just also bring a portable monitor. I don't like if I'm working at a computer, for some reason, I think in multi-monitor, right? Like I've got two massive monitors in front of me. When I'm working from a laptop, it feels weirdly like constrained. So I packed my ZBack, and the ZBack is the system. I did a video on it a while back. It's a triple monitor clip-on magnetic attachment frame. This is a really handy way to significantly and quickly expand your work setup. So I've got the Surface laptop, which is pretty heavy. Like that is a heavy laptop for it being a little on the slim side, but I'm used to working off of phones. If I need to, I'll pack a tablet, something like that. So I share the photo of it. I don't know that you can make a triple monitor setup any smaller. I'm in a hotel room. I've got my Surface laptop. It's got two wings coming off the sides for additional monitor space. And it was so nice. It was so nice editing off of a multi-monitor setup, traveling in a hotel room. This is one of the most profound differences in how I would normally work mobile first. On a trip, like I've covered CESs, I've covered MWCs, I've covered IFAs, like all working off of a phone. And it's not portable in the sense that I'm packing up this laptop and taking it with me to a trade show and working on the floor of a trade show, but it's portable in the sense that I brought it to a hotel room. And when you collapse all of this, it's kind of like having 2.5 laptops. So these two monitors pop off of the frame. I can show you again in the screen share here. These two monitors pop off of the frame, and then there's a little back bracket that clips on to the laptop monitor, and that's how it all assembles. And the reason why I like this over a traditional portable monitor is because it doesn't take up any additional desk. It's all connected to the back screen off this bracket. So as you move the monitor around, as you move your laptop around, the whole triple monitor setup just moves as if it were a part of the laptop. So if someone out there can find me a way to work off of 3 monitors, JoJo, I'm looking at you. Find me a way to work off of 3 monitors that when you collapse it all down can still fit in a regular laptop backpack. I'll happily concede that my portable workstation hotel room setup is not as portable as it could have been. JoJo, I'm looking at you. So that was fun. Because like I had done that video, man, when was it? It was like, I have the blog post up. I'm trying to remember when I produced that video on the ZBack. I have the blog post up from January 6th, 2024. So it was January of this year. I've used that ZBack a couple of times, but I've never depended on it. And this is one of the crazy things that happens. Like I've got a desk full of stuff that I'm in the process of reviewing. I just spent a week in India and I'm moving parts and pieces around. I'm plugging things into laptops and phones. I'm trying to move data. The infrastructure in India is very what's the word that I want? Very intermittent. So hotel Wi-Fi, often slower than connecting over a 4G data connection. I had a travel sim, the company that I did a sponsored video with a while back, Airalo. And if you're traveling, I really think this is one of the things I do like about eSIM for travel. I don't love eSIM as my main personal SIM because I move my SIM card a lot. I am not in any way, shape, or form emblematic of an average consumer. Uh, but because I'm constantly moving my personal SIM, I like it to be a physical card that I can pop out and put into another device very, very quickly. But I love using a service like Airalo, this podcast not sponsored by Airalo, but I have worked with them in the past, because I can quickly just $20, let me get 10 gigs of data. I'm going to be in India for a week and I can buy it while I'm here in the United States and it doesn't turn on the SIM until it connects to a local tower. So I ended up buying a couple Indian SIMs, and that was cake because then I was able to use LTE to connect locally, and I had faster data connections than the hotel Wi-Fi. Really getting to kind of live in this gear that I've been reviewing for so long was kind of an eye-opening experience. Again, I'm not traveling as aggressively as I used to. Like back when I was at Pocket Now, it was like no, like multiple times a month. You'd be on a press junket here or go to a product launch there, or there's an Unpacked and then there's an executive summit and you're constantly bouncing around. So it really leans you down. And that's where I came up with mobile first as my strategy, is like, I don't want to lug stuff around CES. I don't want to have to pack a whole camera bag just for optical equipment and then have a whole computer bag for editing. And then all of a sudden, like the LG V30, I'm getting it all done on the phone, and it's pretty good. I mean, obviously some compromises, but it's really good. And lately, what you will see in travel content is often just cut up on CapCut, right? So the advantages of working full on workstation were really at the peripherals, really at the fringe. And that's where packing really heavy for this trip, I was able to play with a couple different permutations of what I felt a good travel solution would be. The full triple monitor setup. I mean, I had the Acasis. Let me see if I can pull that up on the blog too. So I just recently published this video on Acasis. And this is a little mini storage. I had to go super clickbaity on the title, and I hate the thumbnail for this video. But again, if I don't do stuff like this, then these videos don't get traffic, and that's where we are. No one shares. Hooray! So the Acasis is this tiny little box that has dual NVMe drive spaces in it, and I bumped them both up to 1 terabyte SSDs. So I had 2 terabytes of storage in a fan cooled enclosure. And that took the place of a more traditional laptop hub. So you plug in and it's USB-C 4 or Thunderbolt 4. I know I'm not maximizing the throughput of those NVMe drives, but it's still faster than almost any other portable SSD that I've used in the past. And then it has routing. So I could plug in a traditional USB-A device to it. And then I had a secondary USB-C and a monitor port. So that's how I was also fleshing out triple monitor with 2 terabytes of additional RAID striped storage. And I could connect other devices to that too. So this tiny little box took the place of when we did, it wasn't CES. One of the trips that I did for Newegg, we brought our editor along for the trip because it was so much faster to shoot at the show floor, edit in the hotel room, and then only send the finished videos back to Newegg. In previous trips, I mean, this is how like the logistics of creating content on the road really mess with your head. They wouldn't want to send an editor because that's a whole other person that you have to budget for. But then they'd get mad that wherever we land, it would take forever to upload clips so that then the editor back in California could work on those clips. Well, no joke, you're just sending up all of these raw video files. So they take so much longer to upload. Hotel Wi-Fi is usually garbage. You'd go to like the press room, so someone would have to leave the show floor and go to the press room and upload footage, and that takes forever. So then you're not shooting footage because you're down one person. So instead, we brought an editor. And I think he traveled, I want to say he traveled with a 4 terabyte drive, and it was just a traditional 4 terabyte spinning disk hard drive. Big old massive box. So when was this? I want to say it was like 2018 or 2019. And in the span of 5 years, the ability to just pack a tiny little enclosure with up to 8 terabytes of storage, it really, really fast, and then have that take the place of something like a traditional laptop hub is kind of magic to me. Like that kind of blows my mind a little. That's the evolution over 5 years. Massive storage capacity, better throughput, better capabilities, and that it's also taking the place of other accessories I would normally have to pack in my bag. I think this is one of the first times I've traveled with a laptop where I didn't also have to pack adapters and hubs and I did a written review on like a USB-C splitter essentially. So you plug your USB-C into one of the ports on your laptop, and then it gives you 5 other USB-C ports that you can do stuff with. So that I didn't have to bring. like, so yes, it's a little bit bigger for being kind of an enclosure with a fan, but it took 3 or 4 other things out of my bag that I didn't have to mess with. So again, that proved not a mobile, but it proved a travel or a portable kind of solution that really, really helped. Um, I'm doing this totally piecemeal, like bit by bit by bit, but uh, the uh, the on the ground experience is kind of wild. So things like not I'm not the most seasoned world traveler. I don't know if anyone's picked up on that in my videos or in my podcasts or anything like that. I've done multiple trips to shows and events in Germany and in Spain, in Barcelona, family vacationing in places like Canada and England. Really easy for an American to get around. But it's like the exciting trips heading out to somewhere like Taipei or Shenzhen, where I did an Oppo event, or now spending a week in India, where there is a more significant, not culture clash, but culture adaptation. I felt like everyone had their own euphemisms for what it was like their first time in India. And some of them were more positive than others, but someone mentioned this like, you've got to let India kind of wash over you on India's terms. And that really resonated with me, hitting the ground and just getting from the airport to the hotel, right? Your very first time in some kind of cab or Uber or MediaTek hired a car so that we could make it from the hotel. I mean, from the airport to the hotel. And that's an immediate culture acclimatizing event. What is it like to be in an automobile and to get from point A to point B? And that helps kind of wake you up and see like, okay, this is a more aggressive culture, or this is a more casual culture, or something like that. Like, I feel like you land in Los Angeles and it's a really passive aggressive culture. You immediately see, like, we got back and I was fortunate enough to just ride with TK Bay. TK picked me up and dropped me off at LAX, and we traveled together in that sense. But we get home to Los Angeles, and one of the first things that happens is we're driving on the 405, and someone's just doing 20 miles under the speed limit with a huge empty lane ahead of them, and people are trying to lane change around them, and it's just a lazy, apathetic, passive aggressive driving style. You land in India and you get your butt kicked. Because there are a lot of people in New Delhi and they got stuff to do, and you're in their way. So it's like that respect for, I feel like, the East Coast style aggression. Like, if you're familiar with driving in New York, or like in my family, we lived in Boston for a while. I very much respect the I've got stuff to do and you're in my way. And I feel like the society that has a lot of people on top of each other in many ways is a lot more polite than the fake smile, passive aggressive uh, style in California. I think it's more respectful to be aggressive of your own time and to get out of other people's way than it is to put on the it's the charm and you've got to like have a whole single serving friendship with like the person who's taking your coffee order and oh my gosh, I know. Whereas like in New York that would get you kicked out. Like you'd just be thrown out of the restaurant if you took too much time ordering a coffee and bagel. Like you go up there, you tell your order, you get out of the way because that's way more respectful of everybody else who's in line behind you. And there's a healthy respect for that culture when you land in India and it's just go. It is go time. You are on the road. You've got somewhere to be. Everyone else has somewhere to be. But it's also like lanes are just a suggestion. There's that hyper aggressive driving style, but it's with cars. And that's one of the things that kind of blew my mind is I was used to that in China and in Taiwan where a lane is sort of just a suggestion of the flow of traffic. But in like Taipei, so much of the commute is done on scooters. So it kind of makes sense because here in California, we have lane splitting. Motorcycles don't follow a lane, they kind of flow through traffic just so they get out of the way and they don't tie up space that you don't need to tie up amongst other cars. But a significant chunk of the travel in Taipei is on scooter. So it makes sense to me that you'd have two or three scooters occupying what would be kind of one car. In New Delhi, if you have 3 lanes of traffic, you might have 5 or 6 cars across, depending on like time of day, if it's rush hour, flow of traffic. And it really hit home. We were the second day we were there. So TK and I landed in New Delhi at like midnight. And we go up to our room, we go to sleep. We had a kind of a whole morning free where we didn't have activities and it wasn't a part of the conference proper. And how I know TK Bay is a real one is we're totally on our own. And he says to me like, "Hey, we don't have anything this whole part of the first day. You know, we should try and get like our souvenir shopping out of the way. And we'll be there together." I am not savvy enough and I am not comfortable on my very first day just going out and exploring on my own in a city where we were kind of pulled back a little at this hotel from just walking. That's how I get my lay of the land. Is I love to land in a new city, go to my hotel, walk around the hotel. And that way I kind of just know where I'm at and I know kind of what the vibe is like, but in this more resort style hotel with a lot of like fenced and armored guards and stuff like that, it was not something I was as comfortable doing by myself. And TK, with us, you know, kind of being together, was a lot more comfortable having someone looking out for me and I was looking out for him and we were able to explore very, very easily. So we land and TK's like, "Yeah, let's go souvenir shopping." So we go to the concierge and we ask like, "Well, where would we want to do that?" And they say, "Oh, there's a market here and there's a market there. And oh, and if you really want something nice, you should go to the mall." So we look at each other and like, "Okay, let's go see an Indian mall." And then it's just any mall. Like it could have been in Pasadena. Like you walk in and like, "Oh, there's Burberry and there's Toomey and there's Michael Kors and there's a bunch of other fancy shishi things." And you're like, all right, that's not us." So we walk a lot of that mall like we're just getting extra steps on our fitness trackers. And I'm ready. I'm very disheartened. I'm ready to just maybe go back to the hotel. And it's on TK. TK is like, "No, you know what? Let's try this market." And I'm like, "All right, man, let's do it, I guess." I'm not trusting the concierge's recommendations if they immediately see 2 Western dudes and say, "Go to this safe, sanitized mall that tourists like to go to because it looks just like the mall from whatever country they're from." So we go to the Khan market, and it is touristy, and it is very sanitized and safe for a more Western sensibility, but it was so much more authentic. It was so much more accessible Indian. And you're walking down shops and stuff like that, but then they have like the storefronts, and you're like, okay, it's outdoor, and I totally see like this is supposed to make me feel comfortable, and here's like an Apple retailer, and here's like a place where I can buy Sony and Bose, and nice clothing and tchotchkes. Like one shop was like very I can't remember the name of that store, but it's like furniture and place settings and tea sets and stuff like that, and it looks like something you would see out of like a strip mall, again, in Pasadena. But then you'd round a corner, and like the entire back structure was also just an open market. And so that's where I found like a cute little dress for Lex, and we were shopping for pashminas. And again, why I love pointing this out, TK Bay is a real one. Our first morning in New Delhi, we spent most of the day shopping for saris, a very Indian garment, kind of a wrap that turns into a dress. TK and I are 40-year-old dudes who don't know anything about saris. Like, that has never been a part of my clothing experience, and I'm not into fashion, and I could not be further from that lifestyle. And we took it as a challenge. Like, we went hard on this market, just shop to shop to shop. What about this material? What's in style for these kinds of designs? You just had your Festival of Lights, and you're selling a whole bunch of stuff on this, on sale now, from what was like, sort of a big event for a lot of people in this culture. So talk us through. And we spent most of that day just going from shop to shop, dress shopping, and it was phenomenal. Easily one of like the top 10 travel experiences of my entire life was shopping for saris with TK Bay in New Delhi at the Khan market. I adored. I loved uh, that as an experience. And again, that was so much more helpful and insightful, getting me up to speed. I totally failed at haggling. I bought this cute little dress set for Lex. It's sort of a dress top. It kind of goes down almost to her knees as a dress, but then it comes with this pair of like flared trousers that go with it. It's super, super cute. She's already tried it on, and I was so glad too. I was able to kind of approximate what her size was, because she's getting to that age where she's kind of crossing over. There are some kids' clothing that fits, but then there are some adult clothing that fits. But it's cute and it's flowy, and she can still move. It's kind of like a romper kind of a set to it. But like, I go up to the guy and I'm like, well, you don't have my color, and I'm not sure about her size. It's okay. It's fine. I don't know that I need to buy this. And he kind of comes back at me with like this price, and you're like, yeah, I mean, I could totally pay. You know what? Let me just go ahead and buy it. And then it just sort of shut down the conversation. I know it's not he needed me to haggle, but it was also kind of like this interrupted, like, you're just gonna buy it. Well, if you're just gonna buy it, what about this other scarf and this pashmina and this jewelry? No, I just want the romper set. Oh. We didn't like pop it back and forth. Like, I wasn't doing the tennis properly on how to acquire a goods in India. But I had so much fun experiencing that kind of on our own. We weren't led by a tour guide. We weren't like shown what we were supposed to be shown. We jumped in an Uber. We left a fancy shishi mall, and went to this adorable little market in Delhi, and had an absolute blast kind of being on our own. And getting to experience that with someone like TK, who is a lot more experienced traveler than I am, really helped. Like, that was just a really fun way to kind of get my sea legs. For everything after that, it so much more accessible. I understood more of what was happening around me. We went to Humayun's tomb. We went to the Taj Mahal. Like, we drove to Agra, which is a 4-hour bus ride from New Delhi. But if I hadn't had that experience with TK first, I think I would have been a lot more hesitant or a lot more anxious about all of these other experiences that we kind of went through. But that's also just like the character of a dude like TK. I'm wearing his merch right now. I just realized like for every podcast I like to wear TK's ball cap. And I'm totally plugging, TK and then also buy his merch. But we're walking around a shop in New Delhi trying to buy his wife something nice. He is such a genuine dude. He is one of the best people I know. Just absolutely best friend material. So that was a shining example of just what kind of experience you get to have. A lot of this press stuff feels really ratcheted, and obviously we're there to create content as we're content creators. But along the way, you get these little windows, these little glimmers, these little opportunities to put this stuff to the test, to really hit a new city and try something you've never done before, or just kind of reinforce something that you thought was a part of the experience. And then it's so wonderful and it's so beautiful when that stuff kind of plays out, when that stuff kind of comes true. So see, this is what I'm so bad at. DTNL says, we need that vlog, Juan. Sorry, shopping with my bae. TK my bae. I am so bad at shooting the video in the moment so that I can make the reel or the not the TikTok. Yeah, that's not. So it was pretty crazy. We land and so many people were having issues with TikTok because again, there's like a kind of a thing going on between India and China about what social media services are being allowed in what country and for what audience. And some people were really having issues. So like if you didn't have a VPN to take you out, you couldn't get to your TikTok and then this account would shut off. And that was kind of a trip. I'm already bad at doing little snippety portrait video. It's even worse if you don't know, like, oh, okay, well, if I'm on an Indian service or Indian Wi-Fi and I'm not using a VPN, which you should basically just always be using a VPN when you travel, I can't get to my TikTok. So that's already like, I'm already 2 steps behind. That would have kicked my butt entirely. I'm not good at doing little travel vlogs. I think the last time I did that was back in Taipei. I did sort of a daily little roundup, but even those would end up being like 3 to 5 minutes. Like, oh, we went to the show floor and then we got this and then we went to a night market and that was my whole day in Taipei. And those videos really didn't get any traffic. Like, no one's really interested in what I have to say about international jet setting. So many people so many companies lump me in with influencers. And I feel like that's one of the dividing lines I've drawn is someone who's a good influencer is very good at telling that story of what their life is like as they go do things. I am terrible at that. I am not good at sharing my daily life experience. And then isn't it so interesting that I'm in this airplane and oh wow, look, I've done this excursion and I had this fun experience. Where instead, I feel like the only method I have of influencing is like talking about my experiences using technology to do things with the technology. So I spent most of the trip not shooting a lot of video. I shot a ton of photos, and I am fighting so hard not to just plaster all of my social media with like vacation photos. But you're walking around a city like New Delhi, or you drive out to the city of Agra, and it's kind of impossible to not shoot an interesting photo. No matter where you point the camera, something is happening. India is it's like a city that's turned up the noise to 11. It's a region or it's an area where something is happening all the time, and people are interesting everywhere you look. And for me, being more of like a candid photographer, this was an incredible opportunity to kind of hone some of my street photography chops. Like, I don't think I'm a very good landscape photographer. I don't think I'm a very good street photographer, but I love capturing like authentic moments as they happen. I don't think I'd be a great journalist, but I know I'm a good, candid photographer. And that kind of overlaps a little with that sense of, oh, there's a moment and something's happening and my camera's ready. I can capture something happening out on the street. Like that timing is similar. It's not exactly the same. When you see those people who are just incredible street photographers, they have a sense or a feeling of the flow of a moment in a city, and they know what they're looking for and they know how to capture it. Me, I always feel like I'm kind of a half step behind. I'm getting off a bus and there's someone on like a little scooter and it's just this picturesque moment with the sun, and that's when I'm fighting my camera to try and get the camera app open, right? I wasn't prepared for that moment like I would be at a family event, and I want to capture someone coming into the event and giving their uncle a hug and there's the laughter, someone's clinking a beer. I'm primed for that. I know what I'm looking for there. I'm a half step behind. But what traveling through New Delhi is like, there is interesting, no matter where I point my camera, something looks fascinating. It's kind of like the cheat code for really good street photography is go to some place that's really lit up. So I couldn't be shooting video about myself the entire time I was in a place where I shot, I think I shot almost 1,000 photos. I think between my Vivo X100 Pro and getting some hands-on time, I'm allowed to show you this. This is the Oppo Find X8 Pro. There's an embargo on the Find X8 Pro where I am allowed to post photos. This is why I'm being really cagey too, is the embargo structure on a lot of these devices has been pretty wild. It's been really difficult to keep up with. You're allowed to show the screen, but not any of the software. You're allowed to show the back of the phone, but you can't talk about what any of the back of the phone represents. You can share photos from the phone, but you can't share any conclusions that would resemble a review. So I have posted photos from the Find X8 Pro on my social media, and I can't tell you if those are good photos or not. I'm not allowed to tell you whether or not the photos that I have selected from this phone, whether I think this is good or bad photo performance. But you can go see those photos for yourself, and please let me know if you think I'm on the right track with using a phone camera while traveling around India. Maybe they're good. Who can tell? It's so weird in my brain. But that was another thing too, where one of the phones that I would have wanted to create that kind of travel video, part of the embargo was also we weren't allowed to share video content from the phone at the same time that we could share photo samples from the phone. So that's also a difficult timeline structure. So just to be safe, so I didn't accidentally do something like share media from a device that was still under part of an embargo, I opted just to mostly shoot photos throughout my trip in New Delhi. It's the same thing. Like Jojo, I'm with you right there. Jojo says I'm terrible at capturing vloggy stuff too. I feel like one of the things that's just kind of the universal, and I don't know how I want to play with this because I don't want to just do what everyone else is doing. But like a later part of the embargo, you were allowed to, for the Find X8 Pro, you were allowed to show the back of the phone, and I think you were allowed to share photos from the camera without editorial or without conclusions before you could show the unboxing, which makes no sense in my brain in terms of how embargoes can be structured. But I think like maybe that just has to be the kind of stuff I might add to a product review. And I don't like doing a video on YouTube just to take a product out of the box. I feel like those days are kind of gone. A longer form video where you're really taking things out and you comment on what's in the box and you show close-ups and the whole process, like setting it up. I would do an unboxing and setup video. I don't think that's content anymore. But a number of my friends tend to do things like speed ramp unbox on Instagram and TikTok and as a YouTube short. And maybe I can play around with something like that where it's like a hypercut 60 seconds of literally the first thing I see or taking it out of the box to say, oh, that's what it is. And then I can kind of get on with the rest of the review process. But it's really bizarre in my brain where we've arrived. Excuse me, I need to get a little more coffee here. It's really strange to me how we're sort of creating. This is going to sound insulting, but how we're creating filler that shows up in a feed of someone just swiping through vertical video after vertical video after vertical video. And it's as much what kind of music did you stitch onto this music video time lapse phone unboxing? But then those will rack like 5 or 600 streams, 5 or 600,000 streams. You're like, I'm not going to get 5 or 600,000 views on a proper sit down unboxing setup video. But also 5 or 600,000 streams on like a TikTok doesn't mean anything. Right? It's like it passed by someone's eyes long enough for it to count as some metric. It's just filler. I don't I don't get it. I'm really bad at this part of the whole social media and video sharing experience. Well, let me drink some coffee. Aditya and Nil. Fun fact, Juan, you and TK have been to Agra more than I have, and I lived in India for 18 years. I totally vibe with that. I only go to like downtown Los Angeles or to Hollywood when people come to visit. Like Marie and I have lived here for 20 years, and I think I've been to Hollywood, like the actual like strip that you think of as Hollywood. You know, the Man's Chinese Theater and the stars on the walkway and stuff like that. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 times. It is not like you when you live there, you don't do the things that people travel to go see. And again, going to the city of Agra is an excursion. And the entire culture around that area is kind of built around the knowledge, the fact that lots of people are going to come visit this thing. So it becomes part of the touristy experience. Just where you have to park when you get off like a shuttle or a bus or a car, where you have to park your car, then is like miles. Because I loved this. They are so concerned about the preservation of this incredible monument, this incredible piece of Indian history, that you can't just drive up and park because so much traffic surrounds that area. The air pollution would make the preservation of this monument more difficult. So you have to park way far away, but then that's an opportunity where if you don't also hire out like a little electric scooter, not an electric scooter, like electric tram to take you from where you park to the monument, you got to walk that. And it's miles. So that the entire stretch as you're going, there are restaurants and shops and people selling things and little carts and horse-drawn carriages. And like, there's an entire economy built up in Agra just based on the walk from where you park to how you get to the Taj Mahal. There's this aggressive um I need a someone please in this chat give me a good word for this. I was really struggling. I was racking my brain. Like in German you say Schadenfreude, and you're like, oh, that is like an entire emotional experience summed up in one word. I need a word for a combination of fortitude and ingenuity that can represent what I experienced in India. Because everywhere you turn, there's like, you've got to power through what's happening around you, and you've got to be really clever with meager resources. And it's, again, to me, it's this fortitudiny Engine fortitude, ingenitude. You know, like it's something like that in my like. How do you merge those two concepts? But that was the entire walk from where we parked in Agra to where we got to the when we got to the Taj Mahal, where it's just like there's an opportunity. You know, people are going to have to travel this stretch, and that is a huge component of the economy in Agra is just that walk from parking. Again, it would be like if in Southern California, in Orange County, there was a known strip from where you had to park park your car to where when you got to Disneyland. Obviously, we've got downtown Disney, and there are shops and restaurants, and they know you're going to have to walk this little stretch in between where you park your car and when you get to the theme park. Now, imagine that was like a significant aspect of the economy of Orange County, California, and the aggression of people selling and working in that little strip. Instead of it just being like a couple fancy storefronts and like another gift shop, this is like a massive component of the economy of Orange County and the pressure that would put on people to outsell someone else. And I mean, again, the stakes are so much higher. The selling is so much more aggressive. Jimmy Fire Dragon, yeah, the population of India is insane. From Kapakash, you were too busy actually having fun that video recording was the last thing on your mind. I felt really guilty because I feel like I probably could have scored some really fun social media points, but I kind of also needed to experience what was happening around me. And I am that mobile first guy. And I'm the first one to tell you if these moments are important to you and you want to hold on to them, a phone is the absolute best platform for capturing content, editing content, and sharing content. It is incredibly powerful. The optics are nearly competitive against standalone cameras, especially like if you shoot on like micro four thirds cameras like I do. And you have they're so much more discreet. So I'm not going to travel with a laptop to edit video while I'm at the Taj Mahal, right? That's not going to be a thing. But I probably could have tried to live up to my own claims a little bit more. I'm at the Taj Mahal, let me just shoot that little bit of video and work it in vertical format, which I hate working in vertical format. But I could have stitched together a couple clips and uploaded that. I feel like I probably could have pulled that off, but instead, like, I kind of needed to just let it wash over me and tell this story more in photos than in hastily created video pieces. I'm not a good enough landscape photographer to capture compelling vertical format video clips. I just don't think in that format. I don't live in that content. I don't consume a lot of shorts. I really don't watch that content. So when people are saying like, "Oh, I love scrolling through TikTok," I'm happy for them, but that's not what I do. That's not what I experience. So it's so much more work for me to think in that format. It took me a long time to just build up a little bit of audience on Instagram. I mean, from the original days of Instagram, I was one of those guys. If you go back to like the first photos that I shared, I was sharing them through a third-party app so I could use Windows Phone cameras. And then just so that you could see the entire photo that I composed, I would share a square, but there would be like a 16:9 strip out of the middle, just so, because that's the photo that I got. I didn't shoot it to be a square. I shot it to be a photo that looked good on my phone screen or looked good on my computer monitors or could be cut down to like, you know, like a 3x2 or a 4x6. Yeah, that's 3x2. 8x10. So I've always been bad at that. I'm even worse at that when I'm trying to do some kind of video bit or some kind of video piece. Oh, sorry. Michael C. was talking about something about voice typing and stuff like that. I'm trying to catch up to the chat here. From Simon Says Hypno. 3 blinks and a smirk if it's good. I can't see, now you've said it. I can't do it. I can't tell you if the cameras on the Find X8 Pro are good or not. So go to Instagram.com/somegadgetguy. I shared a photo on Flickr, and then also some other photos on Threads and Mastodon. And if you think any of those photos are good, I can tell you that the majority of the photos that I shot came from the Find X8 Pro. Now, I need you to know also that while I was traveling, my main phone, the one that had my SIM card, my Indian SIM in it, and I was using it for all of my communication and everything else, was the Vivo X100 Pro. If you know anything about this channel, the vast majority of my B-roll and some of my A-roll has been captured by the cameras on the Vivo X100 Pro. And as I was traveling through India, a life-changing experience for me, a bucket list check mark in getting to visit monuments like the Taj Mahal. I did not capture any photos of the Taj Mahal from the X100 Pro. I exclusively used the Find X8 Pro in traveling to capture those photos. Now, I can't tell you if those photos are good or if the cameras on the Find X8 Pro are good. But I will tell you, the X100 Pro stayed in my pocket for everything but communication and social media. I can't tell you if there's any judgment there. So bad. Again, if anyone at Oppo catches this podcast, they don't watch my podcast. It's probably going to be fine. DTNL, it's giving don't review the Hinge on the Microsoft Duo vibes. I don't understand. I really don't understand. I love a good split. I really do. I do like a split embargo where you can tell people you have the phone and you can show something like an unboxing or just show that you have the phone, and then you know everyone's kind of on the same page when it's time for a full review. I actually do kind of like that. I feel like that kind of warms up the audience. You know what to expect. You know what's coming down the pipe. I don't like it when it's everything launches at once. Because often when I get a phone, there's not a lot of time to really live with it. And then there's like the embargo lifts and everyone's got to have a review based on like 3 days of using the product. So I like a split. But lately we've been getting a bunch of, this is not unique to Oppo, by the way. We've been getting a bunch of products where it's like, day 1, you can say you have it, but you can't show it. Day 2, you can show the back of the phone. Day 3, you can show the screen. Day 4, you can talk about shooting this, but then you can't do that. Day 5, you can release the unboxing, even though day 2, you already showed the back of the phone. It is so bizarre. So, Amardeep, I'm apologize, I've probably mispronounced your name. What about the food? Anything interesting that you tried? So I am a big fan of Indian food. Like again, it was like we did a vacation in London over the summer, and I was upset that I did not get to eat enough Indian food. There is a style of cuisine that I very much appreciate. Okay, sorry. This is rambly. But again, I'm jet lagged and weird right now. I come from New Mexico. That is what I kind of call the family home, the ancestral home. And it took me a long time to realize that in New Mexico, we do not actually have good Mexican food. We have a very particular style of cuisine unique to the Southwest, built around this variety of chili pepper and heavily influenced by the Native American populations there. You put all of that together, it is New Mexican food. It is not Mexican food. We eat very spongy fry breads combined with ingredients local to that area with influences from Spanish and Mediterranean cuisine. So in the way that Mexican food, uses the trompo, and like you carve meat off of this big spit that's kind of rotating and cooks, and like that's very Mediterranean or Greek. Some of that made it up to New Mexico, but not all of it. And then lots of big, thick, doughy fry breads are sort of influenced by that Spanish influx. What is this, Oñate? So it's like almost 500 years ago. My family arrived and predated the United States by like 200 years. I adore cultures that eat the same way. So you get these breads and these, it's not just as simple as like, oh, you get a tortilla and you put stuff in a tortilla. Now you got a taco. It's different. We shred these pieces of like spongy dough that then we use to kind of like scoop and eat. And my grandmother loves telling this like this myth, or this like Aesop's fable of this rich man who goes to talk to a poor man, and oh, I've got gold plated utensils, and the poor man says, oh, but in my family, I don't take more than one bite with one spoon. And the rich man is like, oh, that just sounds so incredible. So every now I'm going to eat only one bite of food with this spoon and get a new spoon. But of course, what he really meant was that he got like a piece of dough, a piece of bread, and eat every bite with a new piece of bread. Stuff like that. We love telling those kinds of stories, fables, stuff like that. I love cultures that eat really spicy for breakfast. So the food in India, I ate so well. I felt so bad. There were a couple members on our trip. Not that the food like upset them, but when you eat aggressive and spicy, and there's cumin, and there are all of these different varieties of curries, right? Go to a grocery store in the United States and pick up curry powder, and it might as well be sawdust. Curry is not one flavor. Curry is a variety of spices that you mix and blend depending on the dish. I'm explaining this to people like you don't know how Indian food works, but for me it's just like this is one of those commonalities. A New Mexican and an Indian from India share so much in how we cook. In New Mexico, it's chili, green chili and red chili. And we put it on everything. You want a grilled cheese? You're going to put green chili in it. You want a slice of pizza? It's better with green chili on it. You want a cheeseburger? You put chili on it. Like, we just think around this kind of chili. So I wake up and I go down we're in this really nice hotel. And you go down to the breakfast that they've set up. It's like a buffet, but you go down and it's like, okay, well, there are breads and croissants. The croissants were really good, and muffins. Oh, look, there's like a whole table where you can get like yogurt and cereal. And then there's this one table that's kind of in the back corner of the buffet. And it's vibrant and it's spicy. And there's like a dozen different chutneys. And like biryani. I could eat chicken biryani for breakfast. I was so happy. And I lived out of that table for the entire week. Every morning for breakfast, I would. Like, they had a waffle bar. So, of course, I'm living it up, right? I'm at a resort. Rich people. So I had a couple waffles, too. But I adored all of the food that we made it through. It was a butter chicken at this one restaurant. And I felt bad because a lot of people were thinking, like, oh, like a butter chicken that's going to be mild. And it came with some heat. And it was so good. It like, I've had some really good butter chicken here in the United States. Like, there was an Indian restaurant near Newegg, down in City of Industry, that I felt was like really good. Again, you go in and very few people speak English, and the service has a completely different feel to it than like a restaurant for Americans to go and eat at. I always put it up as, okay, this is Americanized, a westernized, but a more authentic Indian dining experience. But when you bite into a samosa and you've got like potato and peas and chickpeas and like material in the samosa, like, it shouldn't be bland. it should come with some spice. It should kind of hit you. I had a samosa that like rocked my socks in London. And, like I had to like pace myself. I couldn't just wolf it because it was really coming in hot. So good. So good. I got along very well with the food, and I was definitely feeling for the people that were struggling, because you get to the end of the week, and if you're not used to eating like that, you're not used to eating heat on every meal. Um, I totally appreciate it. It was probably messing some folks up, but by the end of the week, I'm still just going hard on all of these different dishes. Like even when like a korma, yeah, it's like coconut milk and it should be creamy and like yeah, but also like throw some other zest in there. Beautiful. Mwah, chef's kiss. I did very, very well with the food. I know my wife was really concerned, so I packed like some Pepto-Bismol and some Imodium, and we had like a prescription strength stomach medication. I didn't have to touch any of it. I mean, like, I got along so well with the food, and the people that we were with were very considerate about things like always having an extreme amount of bottled water. So I don't want to speak ill of like, but when you travel, if you're not used to the local flora and fauna, water can mess you up. I had a bad experience drinking water down in Mexico, and like I travel regularly through the Southwest. Like that isn't. I'm not saying that to like, oh, those Indians, it's so dirty, blah 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 blah. But it was like because they had taken those considerations, where it was we had like the most sanitized bottled drinking water. I was able to just go hard on everything else food wise. Where like get again, samosas at a little stand. I didn't mess me up. Like I was good. So that kind of stuff was very much appreciated. I kind of I feel like I kind of appreciate culture through food first, and you look for those similarities. Like everybody has a hot pocket, right? Every culture has some method of creating some kind of dough or pastry that then you put food in and you seal it up and you close and you cook it all together. If it's an empanada or if it's a samosa, we can get along. We can communicate through food. Everyone has some kind of grain that becomes a carb that you can eat and share and use as a bed for other ingredients. We can all come together on that. Ah, it's so good. It's so good. Let me catch up on some of this chat because I know there was a lot coming in. Yeah, a DTNL, like for an unboxing, what exactly do you get in the box these days? A phone and some cardboard? So I will say the Oppo Find X8 Pro does have other things in the box than just the phone. There you go. See, Jojo, okay, I feel like I'm not on the wrong path then. Jojo the Techie says, nope, unboxings are strictly shorts for me now. Nothing interesting to unbox anymore. And I feel like that's rapid fire content, right? You might even speed ramp. Like make it 45 seconds of pow, 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 wow. And then hold the phone up and like, that seems to be what I might do from now on. Oh, you're saying ASMR. ASMR unboxings seem to be in right now. Okay. Again, I don't watch this stuff. I am so sensitive to sound that like as you're like touching the materials on the box, that to me is just irritating. I imagined what it would be like to have like crinkly cellophane in my ears and parts of my anatomy just puckered really hard. So I don't think I can jam on ASMR, but I feel like Simon says hypno. Juan Whispers is his new unboxing channel. I can't do it. I can't listen to that. I can't watch that. I can't shoot it. Tap that case, Bagnell. Oh no. Do I have it here in? No, I think I put it down in the suitcase. We got a really interesting, cute little phone, that Lava. Um, it's the one that has the little screen on the back. It's got the Dimensity 7300 in it. And I've left it completely enclosed because I think I will try, just to start, doing the unboxing with that and going through enough of the setup so that I can show the little screen as the lead out, as the end of that little unboxing. But oh god, I can't handle like all of the trappings of ASMR, or where you like shove a microphone like up someone's nose so that you get that whispery effect, and I can hear all of the biology and clack and spit and lips peeling back off of teeth. Makes me want to ice pick my ears just imagining it. I can't handle that. Let's see. Kilgore. Oh no, sorry. J-Man 150 Fortification. I don't know that that's the. It doesn't fully encapsulate what I'm. Again, it's like I need that German sensibility of mashing up complex emotional ideas. Simon says hypno industriousness. That's a good one, industriousness. But it's still, it's like knowing you don't have the same wealth and opportunity, and it's not just making do, it's stretching. It's like stretching your frugality. It's coming up with clever solutions based on a need to fulfill a high level of work, but not having the same starting point. You know, I felt traveling through New Delhi validated a lot of my mobile first arguments. This is something we can also kind of tie into what we were actually there to cover at MediaTek. So there's MediaTek, they're a Taiwanese semiconductor industry, but then there's MediaTek India, which is the Indian arm of this corporation. And this was more an event from MediaTek India than MediaTek Global. And when they start talking about the stats, this to me kind of proved, it validated so many of my arguments. Your phone is a computer. And in the Indian market, right now they're estimating at around 700 million people are mobile between 3G, 4G, and 5G. Their 5G rollout is still very early in its experience. So this is a huge growth opportunity for a number of industries to go into the Indian market and say, hey, not only can we do this, we've already matured on RedCap. We already have, you know, broadband solutions in 5G to home and fixed wireless access. Like everybody is really interested in where India's economy goes because 700 million people are already using mobile, but the laptop penetration is only like 200 million users. So there are more people in India using the phone as their only primary computer, as their only computer and as their primary computer, than there is the entire population of the United States. And there are 700 million more people to get connected in India. So we keep talking about the global smartphone market. You know, it's kind of plateaued at around 1.2 billion devices. But if you could connect a third of the underserved population of India, you could bump up the entire global smartphone distribution to like 1.4 billion phones. At the same time, India is aggressively moving their population up from the absolute least expensive garbage disposable smartphones to really healthy mid-range devices. And we've seen that in companies like Infinix and Techno, and the sort of the evolution of the entry level devices from companies like Xiaomi and Oppo. Like there's a lot of excitement about how do you move someone up into maybe like a good $300 phone or a $400 phone. If something is like sub 30,000 rupees, that experience is now tactically good. And you have 700 million more people behind them to get started on those entry-level devices too. So the Indian economy on its own is kind of this little microcosm of the world economy where you have so many people who are underserved, but the Indian economy sort of understands that better than what we think of here in the United States. Here in the United States, we have no idea how many people really are underserved for broadband. We actually don't know how many people don't have access at all. It's a mystery. Our industry reports their own coverage, and our regulators just sort of take that data and go, okay, yeah, sure, probably. Like it was politically divisive for our FCC to start building their own coverage maps because that meant that the FCC didn't believe the telecoms and the ISPs about their coverage maps. But we all know that their coverage maps are kind of lies. But in that, we don't know. We genuinely do not know how many people have no options or no access to broadband. The Indian economy, the Indian market, they know. They know tactically well because they know their population of people alone can make up the next 0.2, 0.3 billion devices sold at the global level. And that's an opportunity, and that gets businesses very excited, and that pours more money into the Indian economy. That seems like progress. Seems like a good play. But when you say there are roughly 500 million Indian consumers who their only computational device is a pocket computer, I feel is very much in keeping with the kinds of conversations we've been trying to have here. Your phone can easily displace the vast majority of laptop needs that people have. And this is the huge opportunity to start pushing more and more into mid-range devices having capabilities like video output through the USB-C port so you can connect it to a television or a monitor and use more of the compute power you already own in your pocket. And that whole concept of like, well, I need a phone to do my basic phone things, and then I need a tablet for my media and entertainment and a little bit of gaming, but then I also need a laptop so I can do proper computer things, but that's not as good as having my desktop for bigger computer things, and then I need a game console of some kind to play the video games, and someone in India right now is doing all of that on a $350 phone. And we freak out about that idea with like $1,200 phones here in the United States. But that $1,200 phone could easily handle the vast majority of the computing needs from someone who's likely popping open a laptop, you know, to like check their email. But they needed a MacBook Pro. Yeah, JMen150, apparently the population of India is about 1.450 billion people. And about 700 million of them have yet to be ushered in to 3G or 4G data. And the Indian government and Indian markets are very conscious of the next steps. How do we bring them into a 21st century economy? Whereas here in the United States, it's not very many people. We're probably talking handfuls of smaller rural communities that are underserved, but it's like we could bring them into a 21st century economy. We could make more money off of them. We could help them make more money, which would be better for our services industry and our sales industry. But you know, that's kind of hard. It's tough. You want to connect people out in rural New Mexico? Well, I don't know. We have to like build a tower. And you're like, but then do it! Because you don't even know how many people don't have that kind of access. From Tracy Barrett, there's a YouTube creator who has that unboxing content on lock, and he has a cute cat too. I need a pet, because unfortunately I still refuse to share photos of Lex on social media if she's identifiable. And again, I respect her privacy and I want her to feel like she can contribute to a conversation on her own likeness rights. But I need a good subject. We were long overdue getting a puppy. Simon says, Hypno, have you gotten your hands on the X200 Pro? Asking for a friend. I, unfortunately, I don't. So the first phone of this new generation of devices that I'm going hands-on with is the Oppo Find X8 Pro. And then I'm hoping that we'll see some global conversation on OnePlus, because I'm trying to be a good participant in these companies get really sensitive. If they have a global version, that's different than their Chinese version. And sure, it is. But also, like, I could just go buy a OnePlus 13 Chinese edition and start talking about it. But I'm anxious that that would then sour my relationship with OnePlus PR. I don't know. Actually, to be fair with OnePlus, I don't know that they'd be that precious about it. But again, I don't want to risk it. And that's where these global versus Chinese launches, these regional embargoes don't make any sense in a 21st century conversation. They really don't work the way the companies, I think, expect them to work, where, oh, well, we'll get huge traffic when it launches in China. Well, when we do the global version, we'll get that same traffic for another region. But not really, because you already had the big traffic bump when the Chinese version launched. So all the people who jumped on that get the immediate benefit of that traffic. Then the conversation sort of decrescendos with every new region that you put the phone out in. It's weird, and I don't like it, but I'm trying to be a good participant because those kinds of experiences seem to matter to the PR and to the manufacturers. So short story, incredibly long. I don't have the X200 Pro in office. It is one of the phones I am most anxious to talk about. And I mean that both positive and negative. I'm very anxious to see what that main camera sensor does compared to the incredible camera sensor on the X100 Pro. But then I'm also really interested in pushing harder on the telephoto sensors. So that kind of stuff is a very complicated conversation. The Find X8 Pro, I cannot share any opinions on, but it has been really interesting to see where I've played with every Find X, but the last Find X that I really spent time with, like I really felt like I got a long time to use and live in that phone, was the Find X3. So this has been a significant jump from Find X3 to Find X8 in what I feel like Oppo can deliver as the name brand Oppo product versus my experiences with OnePlus, where I feel very comfortable working on OnePluses. I'm sorry, I'm way behind on this chat. Oh yeah, JMan150. I found it so weird the way people have been talking about it on social media, but then the launch, etc., has been very, very different. Yeah, it's been a lot of logistics. Oh, welp, I'm damned. Just shared something on the Discord. I need to pull. Oh, I muted the Discord. Let me pull the Discord back up. We've got breaking news, people, because then I do want to spend a little time talking about the MediaTek event proper. But I need to pull this up, go in. Come on, web. I'm streaming and trying to open up chat. Oh, okay. I think we're all gonna be excited to see this. Let me pull this up. And again, this is like, no one should be shocked by this news at all. Of course, written up by Mishal Rahman over at Android Authority. If anyone would know, it's Mishal. Google is turning Chrome OS into Android to compete with the iPad. To compete with the iPad, Google plans to push Android as its unified desktop OS. A source within Google has told Android Authority that Google plans to migrate Chrome OS fully over to Android Google announced in June 2024 that Chrome OS would start using parts of Android's tech stack, but we've now learned that the merger goes even deeper than previously thought. The reason for the shift is to better compete with the iPad and also make more effective use of development resources. I feel the right time to have done this would have been 10 years ago, and the second best time to have done this would have been today. It has made no sense in my brain to keep an artificial division of completely separate resources and development, to have a phone and tablet-y OS, and to have a tablet-y and laptop-y OS as two separate categories. Android has always been the more flexible and the more deployed operating system environment, the more deployed platform, and every improvement to Chrome OS has been to bring more features from Android over to Chrome OS. The only thing lacking in Android is the full desktop grade Chrome browser. So just bring the Chrome browser over to Android, problem solved. You've got one proper operating system environment that can be morphed into any experience that you need it to be. Chrome OS has long outlived its usefulness. It is not beneficial to have the completely separate operating system environment. And if we can now finally just bring those resources over to Android and have some kind of alternate view output, like a desktop mode on Android, because it's now built into Android that you can have a tablet view or a laptop view or a desktop view, we've been so long overdue that consolidation. So thank you, Welp, I'm damned, for sharing that on the Discord, the private Discord attached to patreon.com/somegadgetguy. It's silly that it's been this artificially segmented, and I get it because Google doesn't want to displace their manufacturing partners. Like, that message doesn't want to get out, that your phone is probably more powerful than most Chromebooks out there. If you have a premium tier phone, not even an ultra tier, just a more expensive phone, it's probably more powerful than most consumer grade laptops now. Like, that's not a controversial thing to say. I have the Oppo Find X8 Pro in my office right now running the new Dimensity 9400, and I can't tell you anything about it. But if you have a premium or ultra tier device, it is, and not on benchmarks. I'm not talking, oh, I ran a Geekbench score and it's a bigger number than a Geekbench score on my laptop. I mean, I'm editing video on the Surface Laptop 7 with an incredible Snapdragon chip in there. And the reason I'm editing the video on the Surface is because of things like audio sync. The audio in my interview with Dr. Finbar Moynihan from MediaTek got a little funky. So I needed all of the robust audio tools in DaVinci to do things like just sync up. We had little microphones, on our jackets and shirts, and I was shooting video from different phones, and that stuff just gets weird. Sometimes like a phone shoots 60 frames per second instead of 59.97. So you've got to sync audio, but you can't just line that audio up in LumaFusion. So you've got to merge in ways that you can better control what you're aligning. So it makes sense to do that in Resolve. The rendering in Resolve, even on a MacBook, is slower than what I can do in LumaFusion. So it actually would have made more sense if I had just brought the laptop just to do audio sync. Then I could have moved those files over to a phone, I'm not saying which one, and then if I could have edited that down almost as fast. I edit faster in DaVinci Resolve than I can edit on the phone, but then when I go to push render, it would have been so much faster rendering in LumaFusion on a phone than it would have been rendering in Resolve on a laptop. Any laptop. This isn't unique to like Windows laptops. This wouldn't get better if I were on a MacBook Pro. The phone would render faster. The phone is rendering just behind my Threadripper with a 4070 Ti and 64 gigs of RAM. And it's pretty close. The phone is going to lose, but not by much. It's going to beat the pants off of any of my laptops. So, this is so silly at this point. I do not care what the shape of the computer is. It's a computer. It's a computer in your pocket. It's a computer in your camera sling. It's a computer in your laptop backpack. It's a computer on your desk. They're all computers, and the performance per watt is what should matter. And that's where it's kind of getting really refreshing talking to MediaTek executives and looking at what's going on at Qualcomm, because I feel like Samsung and Google are having a very different conversation in terms of the types of chips that they're designing, the price points that they're trying to arrive at. And I think I have a lot of respect for it. Google's strategy is to keep the dollar amount on a new SoC within a very tight envelope, so that SoC is affordable in an inexpensive device, but can still power a more premium device. I like that as a philosophy, but that also means you're kind of always buying a mid-range chip. Even when your phone is a $1,200 phone, the chip in here is kind of a mid-ranger chip. And it's not that I have to buy a $1,500 phone to beat the chip in this $1,200 phone. I could import a Chinese X200 Pro, a Vivo, right now, and delivered to my door, it would be $1,000. It would be $100 cheaper to fly a phone from China, and it'll have twice as much storage as the base model Pixel, have an aggressively more advanced camera stack, and it would have a chip in that phone that is embarrassing laptops. Or I could have a mid-range chip in a Pixel for $100 more. So again, Welp, I'm damn, thank you for sharing that, because again, I don't think any of us are tremendously surprised. From Awesome Possum, did you round up any feature phones or T9 Android flip phones on your trip? Digital minimalism isn't really something you cover, but it's totally valid to keep social separate from everyday use. I really wanted to. I got a recommendation for a really cool tech market, and unfortunately, I just couldn't fit it into the schedule that we had with MediaTek. But it's something that I'm wanting to find more opportunities to talk about. Like, again, when you say digital minimalism, for me, it's getting back to a lifestyle where you have purpose-built devices. So I went hard on the notion that a phone could be everything. And I think we peaked at the LG V60 with that concept. A phone could be a high-quality audiophile DAP. A phone could be a laptop replacement. A phone could be a camera solution for really not just I take casual photos of my lunch for Instagram, but could be a content creation production machine. And unfortunately, I think as our phones have gotten significantly more powerful since 2020, we've lost a lot of that flexibility. So now it makes more sense. Maybe you do want to carry a second device to fulfill the best version of this one activity. And so I feel like that goes hand in hand with the people who are out there saying, like, I want to go minimal on the phone. I want it to be the most streamlined communication experience, and then I'll have a standalone camera for better photography. I'll have maybe a little mini tablet when I need more computery things. And again, I'm not leaning into that specific conversation, but I feel my experiences in now compartmentalizing a few of these experiences off into standalone devices, it's simpatico. It lines up. They're cut from a similar cloth. DTNL's asking me about so much food here. I'm so far behind in this chat. I've got to catch back up. Let me take another quick drink of coffee here, and catch back in. Oh, Kapakash. Indians are resilient. Resilience is also another really good word. Effective ingenuity, ingenious industry. There's some really good things. Yeah, it's good. Oh, and JMan150, I think Jaime Rivera has just posted his unboxing of the X8 Pro. So I guess the unboxing embargo just lifted. I don't have any footage unboxing the Find X8 Pro because I got it in India and I immediately ripped it out of the box and I started shooting photos that I can't tell you if those photos are good or not. And Awesome Possum, I completely agree. We need a better acronym to make phone on big screen compute a thing. And again, desktop mode just sounds so nerdy, but it's the best way to describe that experience. But it's almost like we need to say you've got phone mode and computer mode, right? If so many consumers are trained, the computer experience is where I sit down in front of a computer, and that's now I'm doing computer things. But then when I have a phone, I couldn't possibly do computer things. I need a computer to do computer things. In my head, it's almost like we need phone mode, tablet mode, and computer mode. What kind of device do you have? It's all of them. Right? Steve Jobs goes out on stage for the original launch of the iPhone and he says, it's a web browser, it's an iPod, it's a cell phone. Do you get it? Web browser, iPod, cell phone. Do you get it? And I kind of need to do that today. Like sit down my aunts and uncles who don't really keep ahead for any technology entertainment. It's a phone, it's a tablet, it's a computer. Do you get it? Oh, but I need... No. Phone, tablet, computer. All in one. All right, I was going to drink some coffee, and then I was going to get on. Hold on one second. Let me just mute this mic here real quick. Yeah, Jojo the Techie, we kind of knew this was already happening, but this makes me very happy. It's just so been long overdue. It is so dumb to draw these arbitrary lines in the sand on what kind of experience you're supposed to have because of the shell of the device. From Kapakash, the photos speak for themselves, Juan. They tell the story quite well. Well, thank you. I loved that. I've gotten so many just really lovely positive reactions to photos that I think I took pretty good photos. I think I did well in composing interesting shots for things that I'm not usually that good at. I don't think I've got a good eye for landscape photography. I've seen so many incredible landscape photos that just make me feel something. And then I look at my own photos and I go, yeah, I was there. And there is just a subtle but a tangible difference in my appreciation of someone else's work when I know they're really good at that. But I found few people that take those candid moments or macro photos from phones. Again, I'm not saying I'm the bestest macro photographer ever. I'm not. But when it comes to trying to capture the level of detail in something tiny from a phone, I think I'm really good. I've seen very few people that approach the same kind of composition and attention to those little details and bringing that. Not just, I did the macro mode on my phone and I got really close to something. I mean, like really trying to care for the composition. And again, same with candids. Like I'm going to do a series, my all-time favorite. I love taking photos of people taking photos of things. So I've got a whole bunch of photos from this trip of like some of my closest friends taking photos of things. And then I also have like, I have a really great shot of Michael Fisher putting on the Evan Realities G1 for the very first time. And he's doing this like almost piece of Renaissance art as his hand is gesturing to the image that he's seeing. But again, it's like, I'm going to be sharing a bunch of those photos over the next couple days. I've got a shot of Josh Vergara just so overjoyed at finding a really tasty sugar-free dessert, right? If you know Josh's story and what he talks about with diet and exercise and tea, tech and tea, you know Josh, you know why this was so important to him, but the look on his face is just so like, oh, I'm so happy. Like look at you want to find someone, you're looking for a mate in life. You want to find someone who's going to look at you like Josh Vergara looking at a sugar-free dessert. So I appreciate that people seemed to like the photos that I shared because that's shaky ground for me. Taking an interesting photo of a building is not something that comes second nature to me. And so a lot of those photos, I was really thinking hard. I'm at the Taj Mahal. It is kind of impossible to take a bad photo of the Taj Mahal. But I still didn't want to just take the exact same touristy photos because, like, something weird happens in our brain. I've seen so many photos of the Taj Mahal that my first experience walking in, you walk through this archway and it presents itself to you, and there are these lines that lead you to the architecture, and there's water and reflections, and like I've seen all of this. It doesn't look real when you first walk in. It looks like an image, like it could have just been a giant poster of the Taj Mahal floating out in space in front of you. And then you have the Las Vegas effect. You start walking to the actual monument, to the actual tomb, and it still doesn't look real because it's so far away and it's so big. You walk for a while before it starts to get bigger. It's kind of like you're in Vegas and you think, oh, well, there's the casino. It's right down there. We could just walk there. And then you walk a mile and the casino hasn't gotten any closer. It's kind of the experience of walking up to the Taj Mahal. The scale is, our brains just, I can't conceptualize the scale. So I also went out of my way to try to shoot photos where as many people were in the shot as I could kind of line up. This is one of those times, like, I don't want a magic eraser. I don't want to wipe people out of the photo because I need the people in the photo to demonstrate the scale of what I just saw, the majesty, the size of what I just experienced. And it would be cool if maybe I didn't have a whole bunch of people like posing for selfies in the photo, but I kind of needed them. There's the one shot I have is you're walking through this arch and you see the Taj framed in this archway, and it's all of these people holding up their phones because they want the same shot that I'm getting. But I'm purposely framing because I need that energy. It is an incredible feeling being packed in that crowd who are all seeing the Taj as you emerge from this archway. And there's an energy to having all of those phones up in the photo because we're all just like, you're just blown away by that impact that moment has. And I wanted that. I wanted all of the hands up to show like, man, we're in it. I'm really here. This is really a thing. I wouldn't want to frame that out of my photos. Yeah, Awesome Possum, tourists for scale. Exactly, Awesome Possum. It's like I needed that. I needed that to tell the story. I was really I was really glad that I got positive reactions on those photos. It took a lot of mental energy in something that I'm not as familiar with to kind of pull that off. Sorry, let me get this out of the way. Oh yeah, so Michael C saying like awesome mode or Chromebook mode. It can't be worse than ready for. I think they finally changed that, although I can't remember what they changed it to. Anything that indicates your phone can be used for more is something we desperately need. I always joke around like it's, Ultra Plus LMNOP edition mode, something like that. So I do kind of want to wrap up our podcast here. This has already been kind of rambly and stuff. The things that worked really well, the Surface was a great laptop. I liked traveling and editing with it because it did enable me to fix problems in software that I like to use that I don't think I would have been able to have fixed as easily on a phone or a tablet, but it still doesn't quite hang with the performance expectations that I have from working on mobile first, from working on a phone. I'm genuinely now looking to other future experiences that I've got coming up, future travel and future coverage. And it makes more sense in my head if I can solve some of these issues where I'm recording audio on the fly and I want to cut that into video and then work multiple camera angles. If I can find that solution, there is no need to travel with a laptop ever again. It will be so much better if I can just nail that experience down mobile first, and I'll get my content shot, edited, produced, rendered, and uploaded faster if I can figure out just a few more of those last little moments. Audio sync being a biggie. And I bet you on iPhones, there are probably already better tools for doing something like replace audio in a video track. It's just getting that developer interest in Android is going to be that last hurdle, that last step. The other thing that was a biggie, I don't know, do I still have it up here? It was time for me to retire my old travel bag. I don't do as many bag reviews, but this is my STM. I've had this bag for, I want to say about 8 years. I don't even know if it's got like a date on it. This thing has aged phenomenally well, and it's just now starting, like on bottom pockets, like I'm starting to wear through some of the side pockets, but the main like container and housing, this bag has been my battle bag for years, and I've just adored this bag. But the folks at Peak Design sent over their new everyday bag, and this is the big one. This is the 30 liter, so that you can pack a full-size laptop. So I've got my Surface in the pouch here on the side. This was my first trip using the Peak Design, and it was kind of a head trip. So this is a more camera-centric, divided kind of bag. It's got these little inserts and stuff. Let me pop this so that everything can be kind of organized internally in a more photography kind of way, dividers and plates and panels and stuff like that. But the organization of that is completely different from how I would organize my STM. It's something so small. You're used to a backpack, but then you have to rethink, how do I carry the same gear in a bag format that's totally different? And you're like, oh yeah, that actually makes a big difference. I wasn't expecting that to change how I used it. But little things like, I was really happy to be traveling with this because your ability to get into the bag is slowed down. Like what I just did here, you've got these little hard loops and connectors so that you can pull the tie on the zipper around this little hard loop and then lock that, so that if someone tries to just like, hey, you're waiting in line at the Taj Mahal and someone tries to sneak in, they can't get very far before you're going to feel that zipper tug. It's stuff like that. Really, really smart considerations for how you might travel, stow your gear, and keep it all safe. And surprisingly durably built. So I'm going to be going through, I've got 2 other trips through the end of the year. I don't know that I'll wait for all of those trips, but I did a week in India with this bag, and it was really nice. I don't think anyone's going to be shocked. That Peak Design makes really good gear for people like us who travel with cameras or with tech and gadgets. But this is a bag that I could very easily see myself, packing for a weekend trip and never dealing with like a little rolling suitcase. Like I could pack 2 changes of clothes, a ton of tech, and just have that under my airplane seat for a 2 or 3 day trip, something like that. So that worked really, really well. I did take the Cook design, Cook Tech. It's CUK, but it's not pronounced in that other way. Cook Tech. And so the Cook Tech battery kind of became my surge protector and power source. So I did a sponsored video on this. It's a little portable power bank, but it's got this great display. So it was really handy in different situations around India where I could see a much more granular how much charge was left, how much input output. It's a power bank that works a lot like those crate batteries that I've been doing videos on. So if you have a home backup battery of some kind, you see a much more detailed readout on everything that's happening on the battery. So the CookTech really came in handy for those kinds of situations too. Again, I think I accidentally left a lot of this stuff downstairs, but I did most of my audio on the new Ceramonics that I also just put a video out on also. And yeah, I think they might be downstairs. Power adapters. Oh, I've got like the bag and the pouch for all the cables and stuff, but I didn't take the actual mics up. So I put out a video on the Ceramonic mics, and those did really, really well for the trip too. And then for audio, I spent most of my time with all of the incredible audio kit that I have. I traveled with my Bear Dynamics, the DT770 Pro, the new DTs that just came out. But for a lot of the travel, I was right back to my Sony XM4s. And I also did this as a conscious choice where I've played with newer headphones, I've played with higher quality audio solutions, but the main reason why I wanted these is because they collapse and they're real teeny when you put them all together like this. So in my Peak Design backpack, I think I could have reorganized so I could have had XM5s, because the XM5s, I believe, are better in almost every way over the XM4s. In terms of sound quality, noise cancellation, even fit and comfort, and definitely for headband noise, because these are still a pretty creaky headband, but they don't collapse. So it was really close. I was going to pack these or the new One Mores, but I kind of felt like I know my XM4s. They've been on decently long trips before, and they still came in clutch on this trip to India, especially for the flights. So I think now they're down to like 20% battery because I didn't charge them for the entire time I was in the air flying back from India. The product that I am kicking myself that I did not bring, I was terrified that something might happen, I might lose them, I might damage them, I might, misplace the sunglasses attachment or the charge case. So I did not travel with my Evan Realities. These are the G1. While I've been around Southern California, these things have almost never come off my face. Yeah, so they've been charging. Unfortunately, they discharged while I was out in India. Also be on the lookout for Josh Vergara, because he actually, he got the G1 also, but he actually put in the prescription lenses. So it's not just that he's reviewing them, he lived with these glasses as his actual, I need them to see glasses for an entire week in India. And I have this photo. Actually, you know what? I think I can share it right here. Oh, wait, no. So I don't have that screen share. Let me, oh, you know what I can do? Let me pull up my browser. Come on. My computer is really struggling right now. Oh, and my computer's telling me that my Oppo is disconnected. So that's not a concern. Let me drop, oh, where did it go? I'm going to drop this. I love this because this is totally Fisher. But it's also like just that honest moment, in that moment, the first time that he tried them on. So let me screen share. And it's like something out of a Renaissancean painting. As he eyes to the heavens, and his hand is gesturing to, sort of interact with what he's seeing through these waveguide optics, and it's nerdy and classical all at the same time. I should have traveled with these G1, because there are so many situations where, like, we're getting communication from the PR. Hey, everybody needs to be back on the bus. Oh, there's a text message that you really need to see, or someone else wants to do a podcast. And I'm constantly like looking at a watch or pulling out my phone. And that's exactly what the G1 would have solved. These glasses would have completely streamlined and abbreviated. And I saw Josh doing it the entire time and no one else noticing that he's like, we're in the middle of a conversation and he would just kind of look away and then look back. And like, oh, you son of a gun, you just got a notification. What did they just say in the group chat? You know, it's like, it's so organic and it's so immediate. Of all the things that I brought that worked really well, the things that I didn't bring, the thing that I'm kicking myself the most, I absolutely should have traveled with the G1. I mean, even just silly stuff. I mean, I'm sure he'll talk about this in videos, but he would be at a monument and he would ask a question of the Evan Reality G1 AI. And it would pull like info from Wikipedia. So he could just have that information up at eye level without needing to pull a phone out of his pocket and do a Google search for information on this monument or this tomb or this landmark. It was just immediately accessible at eye level. And it's that kind of stuff that I think makes a much bigger difference than the way we talk about AI. Oh, what am I looking at? You are looking at a pair of Nike tennis shoes. And you're like, no one's going to do that. I know people are so excited about a new novelty like Circle to Search, but like, it doesn't really profoundly change the experience of what you were already doing on your phone. Like Circle to Search just showed up on the Vivo X100 Pro, and I've used it a couple times, and then it's like, okay, I guess I just don't search for things like that. I'll see someone, and it did. It actually showed up with someone was holding a camera, and I circled it, and it's like, that is a camera. Like, thanks, Circle to Search. But what model of camera is it? I had someone with the Ray-Bans like do a search, and you're like, it got the camera model wrong. And I did that on the frames. So I've got the frame dev kit glasses, and I'm looking at a Lumix, and it says Lumix across the top of my camera, and I tap it and say, what am I looking at? You're looking at a Sony a7S III. Nope. Try again. You're looking at a Canon. God, it's not a Canon Rebel. Try it again. It says the name of the camera on the camera, and it can't figure out what that is. So that's the one I really wish that I had been able to kind of have more of that flavor, more of that experience traveling around India. But if anything happens to those glasses, I think I just would have been heartbroken. I have been so desperate for a heads-up display that now I'm anxious about using it in more aggressive conditions, because I want it for my daily life, and I don't want anything to happen. And it took so long. It took like 6 weeks for this thing to ship to me. I don't want anything bad to happen to it. So yeah, I just had to share that photo because it's kind of prime Michael Fisher, but also like, all these people will say things. Like, we were sitting at this table. Michael Fisher is having this kind of moment. He's looking at this stuff, and he's, you can see the look on his face. And someone else at the table is like, yeah, but like, what would you even like really use that for? And I kind of had to confront that. Like, how do you talk to people? Do you stare them in the face the entire time you're talking to them, like I do when I call out Jojo the Techie? Is this how you interact with all people and you never break eye contact or blink? No. But I've seen you pick up your phone and look at something while we're in the middle of a conversation. Or I've seen people look at their watch and tell me this is not flippin' rude. And then he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. I get why that would matter to you. I'm like, you know what? Don't do that. You're already looking for a way to talk about this experience that you're watching someone else at the table have in a dismissive way because it's not a name brand. Don't be that guy. Don't pivot on this because you know your YouTube video won't do as much traffic if you don't pat a Vision Pro owner on the head and tell them they're clever. This is unique, and it's different, and it's experiential, and it improves our social experiences, and it's not profoundly more expensive than a nice pair of glasses. of regular glasses. So I know you got a lot of traffic on your Ray-Bans videos. So you're team Ray-Ban. All right, cool story, bro. Let me take one more drink of coffee here. Jojo the Techie, I have yet to find the perfect travel bag. Still searching. That Peak Design one looks good. So I have been a fanboy nerd for Peak Design since I got the Everyday Sling. So much so that I just mentioned the Peak Design Everyday Sling, and I just reached down on the floor because it's right here. It is like, it's one of those companies that if you don't have the need for that kind of organization or that kind of durability, it's an expensive bag. The second you start using all the little pockets and pouches and you travel with it and you're like, I gotta have this, this, and this, and it's the right tool for the job, it clicks. And there is no way you wouldn't spend that kind of money on that bag. So I would heartily recommend, when you're packing and traveling as heavy as I was, all of the little considerations make so much sense. I just had a tough time because I wasn't used to it. I wasn't familiar with it. I was used to my STM, and that bag has been awesome. But like, I need to start really using the Peak Design stuff that they sent over, and it was the perfect opportunity to really live that. And I think it lived up to the experience. I think what they've done achieved what I needed it to do. That was a clumsy sentence. I think you know what I'm talking about. That's fine. From Lampros Bros, I've been using the 30-liter everyday backpack for 2 years now. I approve. Yeah. Again, Jojo, if you need confirmation, there's citation given. Jojo the Techie. Oh no, there goes my name again. I'm telling you, Jojo, like, you can keep talking trash about my portable workstation setup. So until I see you go triple monitor on a powerful computer, I think I just need to kind of keep bringing up that. It's fine. So, I didn't really spell this out, and I probably should have, but my travel and accommodation was covered by MediaTek for this event in India. And it was more a MediaTek in India kind of conversation. And I'm going to kind of end this podcast by asking you to kind of consider, if we care about the industry and we geek out on this kind of stuff, there are some really useful conversations that happen. And I know a lot of us will catch, like, the sit-down interview where basically the interview is just, why is your company so great? Well, I'll tell you why my company is so great. I agree, your company is great. And I'm so happy you flew me out here so that I could talk about how great your company really is. I have always appreciated that when I get some time to speak with a MediaTek executive, they kind of let me go rogue. Now, I'm saying a lot of nice things about MediaTek because if you followed my coverage, since the MediaTek Dimensity 9000, I don't know that any other manufacturer is really delivering the kind of competition we would want to see in the mobile space to keep a company like Qualcomm on their toes. And they're kind of embarrassing a company like Samsung in terms of overall chip design, especially in terms of like radio design. Because usually in our more Western and North American perspectives, Qualcomm makes the best radios. Those are the radios that are in the iPhone, so they must be the goodest. But more and more, I'm seeing things like, you probably have a ton of MediaTek in your home already if you have any IoT smart speakers or televisions in your house. I've been disassembling a bunch of these mini PCs. And the mini PCs that tend to perform the best, especially from my wireless network here in the house, those are they aren't the Intel wireless chipsets. It's the MediaTek wireless chipsets. So we start putting all these pieces together, And I feel like there's a part of this conversation that's kind of being underserved. We had the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, the Dimensity 9000 was better. We moved to the 8 Gen 3, and MediaTek took a big risk with their Dimensity 9300. And last year, during the MediaTek Executive Summit, I got to sit down with Dr. Finbar Moynihan again, and also with one of their AI engineers, DS. And there was this one brief little exchange between DS and Dr. Finbar that was just kind of a passing moment. I thought it was kind of cheeky, right? We're going to talk about our own products. We like our products, but I asked them a pointed question about sort of Apple's perception in this marketplace. And DS kind of pinpoints immediately, but I don't know what Apple's going to do with AI. Like, even if their chips are powerful, they're also not putting together the entire environment. They're not putting enough RAM in their products. And we all kind of like, oh yeah, that's a thought. Oh, that's interesting. And then literally 6 months later, what do we see? We see Apple announcing, no, it was a little bit more than 6 months, but still, the next generation of products out. Oh, Apple Intelligence and their AI play, and you need this and you need that. Do you have 8 gigs of RAM on your poor person MacBook or your poor person Mac Mini? I guess you won't get to play with all the newest, latest, and greatest. Do you have $1,000 iPhone 14? Well, you don't get to play with Apple Intelligence and all the newest and latest and greatest. And what he said in a little throwaway comment that was candid, off the cuff, just a part of this like run and gun conversation and interview that we had set up, totally played out. And I got to reference that in the interview that I shot this time. So I have this video out now. MediaTek Dimensity 9400, refining and adapting to an AI future. On YouTube, I've done something cheekier where I'd say like how Apple goofed on AI, but it's a pretty short interview. I was actually going to play it as part of the podcast today, but I figure instead I'd rather just kind of point you to that. If you want to, you can catch that. That's on YouTube, and it's about 18 minutes, something like that. But again, really candid. I appreciate I was able to kind of dig into follow-up questions in ways that other manufacturers have never given me the leeway to sort of expand on a topic. As an example, not to spoil it, but I had some really pointed questions to ask about things like right to repair and support for flashing software. We know that there is a relationship between the end user consumer, the manufacturer of the phone, and then all of the companies that make components that go into the phone. And somewhere along that chain, things will start to break down where the end user might not have the ability to flash a custom ROM. So let's say you've got a phone, you really like your phone, after 5 years, it stops getting support. Well, shouldn't you be able to install different software so that you can continue support if you still like that device? You don't want to throw it away just because you need software updates. Shouldn't there be some kind of mechanism for when a phone is end of life, but it's still functional hardware, especially in an age where, come on, if Google says they're going to give us 7 years of operating system updates, those updates are going to be real small. They're not going to be profound changes because then they won't be able to live up to their 7-year commitment. It's iterative, smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller evolutionary changes. But once you get to 7 years, if you get a battery replacement, there's still probably a lot of life left in that hardware, even after 7 years. I can pick up phones from 8 years ago that would still be capable, functional computing devices today, but the batteries are old and they're way off their software support timeline. So I'm gonna hand this off now. I thought it was really interesting getting to see an Indian perspective on this. India is aggressively mobile first, and I think we could learn a lot from how we handle devices here in North America and pushing more mobile first. Already, the phone is the primary computer It's the computer you cannot leave the house without. It is the computer that is responsible for so much of your daily management, of your at a glance information delivery, payment services. And again, how incredible and ingenuitive resilience how the Indian market has addressed their payment systems in ways that the United States totally stumbled on figuring out mobile payments. It's kind of embarrassing when you like we have all of this incredible technology, we have all of this wealth, and the sort of day-to-day lifestyle experience of tech in the United States feels like it's way behind on these actual like lifestyle interactions. How difficult it was for us to get tap and pay going versus what do they call it, the UPI in India, Universal Payment Interface, I think. I've probably gotten that wrong. But it's a QR code service. You're like, yes, that makes so much more sense. Because in India, you can't count on a $100 phone having an NFC radio, and you can't count on a shop owner investing in an expensive point of sale service. So, if you're running a little stand in an Indian market, you're not going to have an expensive iPad as like a swivel screen that has like a fancy radio management tap and pay service. That's not going to work. But you can set up a little QR code, go boop, and you pay for it, and it's done. And we could have learned from that here in the United States, but we needed to spend 10 times more money to arrive at a poorer solution. It's like we needed to pay full retail to get something that was not as good. It drives me crazy because even in wealthier neighborhoods here, in wealthier regions of the United States, I know for a fact that there are people who are still struggling. And I know there are people who are starting to not be able to keep pace. There are people who are falling behind. And instead of really trying to find those backbone core experiential services that would at least keep us all at some baseline, we're letting people fall through the cracks. We're letting people fall behind. We're not keeping them active and engaged and empowering them to continue into the 21st century. And I was just face first confronted with all of that in India. And instead, they're excited about the opportunities. They're excited about what that means for their economy. They're excited about expanding science and research and manufacturing. Here in the United States, we're still quibbling and arguing over the money that goes into the CHIPS Act. And we're pouring billions and billions of dollars, tens and tens of billions of dollars into trying to improve manufacturing. And well, if TSMC comes to Arizona, they're going to give us like old tech to work on. They're not going to give us the bleeding edge nodes. They're going to have us on like 28 nanometer or 14 nanometer, the old stuff. And in India, they're kind of in a similar boat. They're getting a new fab. I think they're going to be building a new fab online, and they're going to talk about like 28 nanometer for older chipsets, industrial, automotive, things that don't need the bleedingest edge, latest and greatest. But they're going to do that probably at a fraction of the cost that it'll take to install that here in the United States. Now, obviously, in terms of government, energy, and environmental policy, there are going to be some profound differences between how the United States might tackle a problem and how the Indian government might tackle a problem. And this is not the right platform for me to delve into all of the permutations and nuances of a global economic comparison between two regions. But I do think we can look at some of what they're going to accomplish and know they'll probably do similar work at $10 billion that might take us $40 billion to accomplish here in the United States. And when it comes to the daily life of the consumer in India versus the consumer in the United States, I just don't understand why tech enthusiasts in North America aren't more excited about mobile first strategies. I cannot wrap my brain around telling average consumers that don't watch YouTube tech videos anyway, so I don't know why we're trying to appeal to them in videos they don't watch, why it really you need a phone and a tablet and a laptop and a desktop because those computers are somehow functionally different. Instead of really trying to put pressure on developers to make these experiences more accessible for everyone. Because in regions where phone first happens, people solve those problems and they make the software and then they have the solution that works on their phone. Why would they need a laptop? Instead, maybe I'll buy 2 phones. Like that is a much more common conversation and experience in Delhi. It was really eye-opening and also very validating. It gives me some of that ammunition where I'm going to be insufferable in some of these future podcasts, just saying, and in India they're doing this, because I really wish we were doing more of that here. Aditya Nil saying, yup, UPI, you got that right. Bam. Oh, and Simon says, no, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a great interview. So I'm going to pass this off. I hope that you'll consider checking it out. I have a sit down. It's not crazy long, but we do get a little inside baseball. And I think this stuff is fascinating. We got to recap where Apple went wrong with AI. We're talking a little about Dimensity 9400, but obviously I'm going to be hitting that really hard very soon on the Patreon. I have a whole test suite ready to run on the Find X8 Pro that I can't tell you about, but I think will be encouraging in terms of how we're handling mobile compute and performance per watt. And this is a refining year for MediaTek, where this is an experiment year, a transition year for Qualcomm. Last year, what MediaTek did was very aggressive. And there were some teething pains in how the company managed this transition and how manufacturers used this new technology. But I think overall, I would say it was a critical success. So much so that even Samsung was using MediaTek in the Galaxy Tab instead of Qualcomm. And not only just a performance per watt, but a performance per watt per dollar was much more exciting in the MediaTek space. So this year is going to be another really fascinating year to see how these companies play out different styles and technologies and core configurations and architectures. And man, we're sitting on so much raw, aggressive compute power. And I want us to do more with it. I have so much fun kind of showing, like, look at what this thing can do. And then someone on YouTube will be like, but I mean, what are you really going to do with that? Why do you even really need that? But this is the exact same person who would like, but I didn't buy that because it got a 3% smaller Antutu score. I have no respect. I have so little patience and so little respect for that kind of like willful, aggressive tech ignorance from someone who claims to be a tech enthusiast. How can you not be impressed at 12 watts, a phone computer pacing a 2-generation-old laptop? You've got to be really bad at tech to not be wildly excited about that kind of potential. Whoa. Oh, sorry. Let me just wrap these up. So, casual wrestling reactions. Yeah, I am phone first, and I use my Pixel 8 to shoot and edit my YouTube videos because you have taste. You're doing it right. And also, Pixel 8, there are some fun googly things that you can do with video and production and stuff, too. So, good on you. Very well done. And Michael C. Oh, wow, it looks like Linus Tech Tips nuked their Apple channel and laid off the host. Oh, from MAC address. Oh, wow. Hold on one sec. I really do need to end this. I can say I can really feel my throat is starting to finish this off for me, even though there's other things I could always ramble on for like another hour. I will say I was that insufferable nerd at at a lot of the MediaTek events where I was wearing a mask for most of our activities. And it sucks because I really didn't want that to be the image. Like if someone took a photo and I'm sitting there with like a mask on my face, I will say we were having some pretty rough air quality in New Delhi for a good chunk of our trip. That was a little hard to get around because I've had experiences in Southern California where Los Angeles is not known for its air quality, but then also during wildfire seasons, it can get really scary. Like what you go outside and breathe can be really difficult to deal with. So even with the mask on for so many of our excursions, I can already feel it right now. Like I'm close to fail point on talking. So I'll check that out, Michael C. I haven't really kept track of what's going on at Linus Media Group at all over the last couple years, now I think about it. But that's kind of a bummer if, again, I want to highlight, if you enjoy the actual nuts and bolts mechanics, the tech conversations that are more than just let me do unboxing videos on TikTok, that is the content that is having the most difficult time establishing itself in this new era of platform algorithmic sorting of how we organize the content that we watch. And you've got to make the effort to get out there and not only watch it, but support it. So again, I'm very appreciative of everybody who shows up to my rambling podcasts and caught some of my videos and interviews and stuff like that. But like, it's tough. It's getting really tough. More of this stuff is starting to evaporate. More of these channels are leaving. And when I'm talking about pitching articles and videos and reviews to other outlets, they are not always interested or rarely interested in doing a more technical conversation. I'm talking to someone about camera tech, and they don't want to get too technical or too artistic to talk about a technical art like photography. What they want is an article where I say, Google's take the best pictures. And they want 900 words on that. And if that's what you want, you've got a lot of that out there. If you want anything that's going to be a bit deeper than that, no one's buying it. I'm pitching it. No one's buying it. So when you find it, you have to support it. So, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm hoping that my transition back to Pacific time isn't too egregious and that I can stay on a good sleep schedule and work. Like, again, travel just wipes me out. But this trip was so lovely. And again, I want to extend the thank you to MediaTek for inviting me. And then also, they covered my travel and accommodations, but put no restrictions or expectations on the content that I would produce. So there was absolutely no editorial influence offered or recommended on anything that I did out in India. That is what I wanted to accomplish, and this is my podcast now today, was what I wanted to talk about, and that that they took someone with a channel my size and brought me along was really satisfying, was really gratifying. So again, a thank you to the MediaTek team for hosting and for putting together an incredible event with, I can't even imagine all of the logistics in getting nerds like us out to India to talk about phone chips. Like, it just blows my mind that anything like that ever works, let alone works as well as it did to get us out there. And the food was incredible. So everybody, I want you to have an amazing week. We'll be back next week with a more proper show with structure and organization and links. And I'm going to be putting out some more content over the next couple days, just talking about new tech and gadgets that are coming out. I've got some reviews that I've been sitting on. I just need to finish and publish and get them out. So there's a lot. There's a lot that's going to be happening over the end of the year. We're not really done. You know, we never really finish. I'm already sprinting into 2025. And it's halfway through November of 2024. It's like I already have my next 3 months of content kind of mapped and scheduled and looking at what we're going to be doing. So it's going to be some cool stuff. I'm really excited about some of the things that we'll finally be able to start talking about. So, have an amazing week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. And I'll catch you all back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be safe. Take care of yourself so you can keep taking care of others. Be the good tech neighbor that we really need out there. And I'll catch you back.